if you want barn owls on your property and any wildlife, you need hedgerows. Don't let them go wild, but they can't be trimmed back to this prim and proper looking, lovely straight line thing. If you've got big trees, leave them be. If you've trees that are starting to decay, make them safe. Don't totally cut them down. Put up nest boxes for them. Just put them. Use a bit of common sense. Contact one of the groups before you put them up to give you the best. I can nearly guarantee you that if we put up a box, we have about a 90% chance of getting owls in it.
Hello, I'm Cathal Summers.
And I'm Deirdre Len.
Your Teagasc Sustainability Advisors. And you're welcome to the Teagasc Environment Edge podcast number 58, bringing you the latest information, science, opinion to improve farm sustainability. Barn owls face multiple challenges in Ireland. However, rodenticide is a major contributor to their downfall. Listen in to hear how farmers can encourage barn owls onto their land and provide safe habitats.
The founder of the Barn Owl Project, set up in 2019, John Carrig, joins us for a bit of an owl chat in part 2 of this 2-part episode.
John, I suppose you wouldn't be here if there wasn't some form of problem with barn owls. What's the biggest issues facing them?
If we were to go back a few years ago, I would say starvation would be one of the top ranked things. But as I said, since the greater white-toothed shrews come in, that seems to have dissipated somewhat. So if you think about it, barn owls in Ireland don't do well in the rain, and they don't do well in the wind because of the design of they're not fully waterproof. They have a small, light rain, maybe not a problem, and this is Ireland, it's windy, rainy 90% of the time. So there's where the kind of starvation comes in. So when they get out, they need food to be there. So that would, for me, a few years ago, number one. At the minute, it's habitat loss. Now, habitat loss comes in a number of factors, I suppose, when we talk to farmers. It's old buildings being knocked because they love nesting down chimneys and stuff like that. If you've got old trees on your property and, people often come along and they'll say, look, that tree is unsafe, I'm going to cut it, it's broken or it's dead. But sometimes there's a hole in that tree and there's a number of animals that use it. So the barn owl would use the hole that's in the trunk and nest in it. Sometimes you get pine martens in there, you get squirrels in there, and stuff like that. So I suppose that would be a big thing. The rodenticide is a major problem in Ireland, and we have the campaign going there. But I suppose to give you kind of figures and some of the stuff, we've had it mentioned at all. We've had it mentioned to Shannon. We had a meeting with the Minister for Agriculture on it last week. We're looking for simple changes in that, but I could tell you some horrendous stories about sites where we've got phone calls from people to come out and they want barn owls, but some of the stuff you discover through that, and it's normally lack of education, I would put it. I know there's these protocols in place for using poison, but I think if I mention them to farmers, I think it's the CRRU or the CUR. If I mention them to farmers, 90% of them know nothing about them. All they know is that they have to put down a bait box and they have to log information and stuff, and it's ridiculous what is going on. So I would say that if you look at where the real testing goes on, so the UK have tested on average about 600 barn owls plus hundreds of other animals every year. They're coming out saying 88% of barn owls in the UK, living barn owls, have rat poison in them. Okay, we know that we use more rat poison per head in Ireland than they do in the UK, and we're working with rehabbers all over the country. So we're putting the figure at about 90% in Ireland of living owls, barn owls, long-eared owls in Ireland. Plus, in the UK last year, they started for the first time testing garden birds. And garden birds are showing signs of rodenticide in them. So I suppose these are the issues that they're facing. We have come across a lot of birds, particularly last year, and juvenile birds that are showing signs of rodenticide. Unfortunately, we don't have the financial means to go testing. We have to depend on, I suppose, experienced rehabbers. We have rehabbers working with us over 30 years who specialize in birds of prey. We have 2 vets that sponsor the project. So we've gone to the point where we go to the vet. The vet will, it's basically look at symptoms and stuff of what's going on there and then treat them accordingly. But it probably would shock most people if I told you that nearly every single bird of prey that is brought into a rehab in Ireland is treated with vitamin K. And that's a reversal for rodenticide, anticoagulant. So yeah, I would say it's a major problem. And Danny is running the campaign. He's the one that leads the campaign in the Barn Owl Project and that. We're trying to kind of just push people. The simple changes we want is like when poison comes in, it's been sold in the shop, there's a picture on it telling the truth. And that truth is that no matter what you do, you're killing wildlife. It doesn't just see a rat and say you are a mouse and kills that. It kills shrews, insects eat it, garden birds eat the insects. Anything that can get near it will eat it. You know, if how do barn owls get it? Well, the rat eats it. It takes them up to 14 days to die. So the rat will go out in the field and the barn owl will pick it up. And then over time, it builds up in the barn owl's liver, and they call it secondary poisoning. So secondary poisoning can stop them from breeding. It can cause them to run into trees, cars. It can cause them to do numerous things. But for us, what we see in the field with adult birds, when we're cleaning out the nest box, you'll come across them, and it's like that they're comatized in the box. So, you know, last year I think we had 3 that went down to Susan in Limerick, who's one of our team members. They would have seen a vet, treated with vitamin K, and within 2-3 days they're automatically back on their feet and stuff. So it can be quite distressing for volunteers and stuff when they're coming across things like this. The severe impact of rodenticide would be where you'll find an owl that would have like blood around its face, where it's starting to hemorrhage and stuff like that. And we've had a few of those. So yeah, that they would be the main cause. Obviously, the main roads. If I was to tell you that we have an ongoing project at the minute on a few different motorways in Ireland, and one of them would be that the Galway team are running. So it's Ordenmore to Ballinasloe, which is 40 kilometres long, and last year was the worst year ever. 29 owls picked up. Previous year to that was 6. So 29 owls were picked up in that small stretch, killed on the roads. Primarily, I think you're talking about maybe 60% of those were juveniles. So it is a major kind of problem, I suppose, with the roads. I think Birdwatch Ireland had figures of, I think 5 or 6 years ago, about 600 owls a year being killed on roads. Well, if that was the case back then, I would say it's a lot higher than that now at the minute. So it probably equates to about maybe, I don't know, if we were to be pushed on numbers of owls in Ireland, I don't know, we think 1,200-1,500 breeding pairs would be, you know, a conservative figure, which isn't a lot. If we had one bad season, a lot of those could be wiped out. But it probably could equate to maybe one juvenile out of every nest being killed on the roads. You know, so we know that in that stretch of motorway that we didn't get all the owls that were picked up. So the maintenance crew pick up the owls. We go pick them up. We look at the age, the male or female, stuff like that. But we know we didn't get all the owls, so the number is more likely higher than that. So yeah, like that's kind of where we're at with a lot of the problems they're facing. You know, things are improving. It's not all negative. There are. And I'm sure you guys can see it on the ground, which like there are a lot of stuff coming for wildlife. There is a massive interest coming from the farming community. You know, definitely.
In Teagasc, I know that we would have had a campaign for responsible rodenticide use. It was built into an awful lot of the programmes. But from what you're saying there now, I think we need to reinforce that message, you know, as well.
Yeah, I suppose. Yeah, if I was to be truthful, honest about that, I think that program, that document failed. I'm good friends with Barry O'Donoghue, who was one of the guys I think that was involved in that. It was a failure. So it's just it's good. It's a good idea. It's all that stuff. But 90% of farmers know nothing about it. I don't know. Does the paperwork come out? I'm sure it comes out to them every year and it goes in the bin. I don't know. You know, like we go to talks and we talk about it, and farmers like we don't know what you're talking about. So the UK have come out. I know it's the same system they're using. The UK same document. The Barn Owl Trust have officially said that's just it's went up by 3% since it started. We have gone up by more than that, I think, here. You know, so now. To back up what we're saying, I suppose we have asked Malcolm Noonan there's a thing called Raptor Protocol, and we I think put in a little bit of a complaint that we felt Raptor Protocol was not doing its job. So UK tests 600 owls a year. We have tested, I think, 8 since 2011. Shocking, you know. So this is one of the things we've asked for. We've asked for the owls in particular. So kestrels and owls will be tested because they're the two main birds of prey that would target the farmyard animals like mice, shrews, rats. One does it at night, one does it during the day. So you would test the birds you find dead on the road, and that will give you an accurate figure of what's going on there. But we've been met with a little bit of feedback on that. The other thing would be the picture, the same as the cigarette box, just highlighting that, guys, if you use poison, it's not rat poison, it's wildlife poison. It's going to poison anything that picks up the mouse or rat that eats it. And then we were kind of looking for, I suppose, a bit of information to be taken when people buy poison. So not their name, not their address, but their just location. So if you're in East Galway and you're in Ballinasloe, it's Ballinasloe. So if we notice in any of the projects, not just us, but any group notice that there's a spike in what's going on in the area, it could be other animals, it could be cats, it could be dogs, we don't know. But if we notice a spike in the area, those records can be looked at, and they say, like, there's a lot of poison put out in Ballinasloe over the last. So I suppose they're the kind of things we were looking for. So we're hopeful that the department, I think the Department of Agriculture look after the regulation of poison coming in, and then National Parks and Wildlife look after the testing. So we're hoping maybe we can get something going there,
John, how can we provide a safe habitat for, our owls and our wildlife?
Yeah, I suppose safe habitat would be, for me, just people that care, I suppose. If you've got a farm and you're looking to have wildlife there, don't be trimming back all the bushes and cutting back all the wild areas and stuff. Now, I know, like, when we first started the project, I talked to farmers and they'd say, see that area down the back there? I left that last year, and out came your man from the rep scheme, and he put a big X down the middle because that was in my scheme and I couldn't leave it, so I had to cut it. That's all changing now. So if you want barn owls on your property and any wildlife, you need hedgerows. Don't let them go wild, but they can't be trimmed back to this prim and proper looking, lovely straight line thing. If you've got big trees, leave them be. If you've trees that are starting to decay, make them safe. Don't totally cut them down. Put up nest boxes for them. Just put them. Use a bit of common sense. Contact one of the groups before you put them up to give you the best. I can nearly guarantee you that if we put up a box, we have about a 90% chance of getting owls in it, because we put there's a bit of thinking behind where you're putting it and how you're putting it up. Leave margins in your field, and if you're really dedicated, plant some game cover or something in areas of your farm. We've had that down in Mayo. A farmer contacted us. He had an acre land. He had 2 horses belonging to his 2 daughters on it. Daughters gone to college. Horses were gone. He put up a nest box in his shed. I didn't think it'd work because he put it like 50 foot from his back door. And he asked me what to do. He said, I said, if you're not using the land, would you plant something? So he got onto his local gun club. They come in and plant a game cover, which is only used for the pheasants to hide out, and nobody's shooting over or anything like that. So I told him to put a few stakes in the middle of the field, because the common thing with a barn owl is they like to go along, land a stake, and they nearly half fall asleep until they hear a mouse. I think it was, I totally forgot about the guy, and about 3 months later he sent me video footage of 3 owls. On the 4 stakes he put out, there was an owl on 3 of them. So it was, I don't know, was it 2 adults or was it 3 juveniles or what? And then he came back, and I was flabbergasted to tell me that they came out of the box that he put in his house, the one that I said wouldn't work. So I said, it goes to show what I know about it. But little things like that. But for the ordinary farmer, I would say pull like an electric wire out 2 meters from either side of your fence line. Let it go wild, don't cut it. And then at the end of the season, pull the wire, let the cattle in, graze it off. And that is habitat for your shrews, your mice and stuff like that the barn owl likes to live in. But that also will help with the fox, which I know some people mightn't like it around, but the fox will eat your rats, your mice. The pine marten, the same thing. And it's that whole circle of life. It's the kind of, suppose, the more, I know I could tell you stories with some farmers that went above and beyond, like to get owls on site. And I think I had 4 phone calls this morning from 4 different farmers that had one down Tipperary, 2 lads in Limerick and a guy in Galway, reporting back of boxes they put up last year that now they're hearing chicks in. And it's like a little kid inside in a sweet shop. They can't get over it, and they're there. So, and I suppose the main thing they would have put in, to be honest, the 4 of them they've stopped using poison. They've went back to using just manual traps for the time being. It's a little bit more work, but putting down traps and stuff, keeping food away, bits and pieces like that. And they haven't done anything major. nothing major, you know. So yeah, it's not the hardest thing in the world to get them there at the minute if you can just put in a small bit of work.
My sister would be delighted to hear about the owls and the pine martens. She had a bit of an altercation with a pine marten.
Yeah.
He ate all of her protein powder.
Mostly pine martens going around the place.
What do we call them? Protein? Protein powder now, or is it chicken we're talking about? Yeah, we've had it. Like, I suppose I have to bring that up with the meetings. Like, when I go to meetings, like, sometimes you get, like, I've been accosted after a few meetings where people would say, I can't believe you were talking, like, saying the pine martens are good and blah blah. But, like, I suppose if I was to tell you, like, in Ballyduggan the first year we put up the nest boxes, and I said, like, we have history going back there. Claire Burke is 93 years old, fascinating individual. She was one of the first women ever to work for the UN, highly intelligent, and her family have owned that estate for like, I don't know, 300 years. But they have history of the estate. There was no owls there, so we put a lot of work in. And the first year we got chicks there, they were born on a Monday and they were dead on the Friday because the pine marten ran up the tree, heard them and killed them. All right. If anyone's going to be upset with a pine marten, it's going to be me, you know. But I wasn't. That's wildlife. Yeah, the pine marten is only doing what he does. He has to survive. He's no different than anything else. That was my fault. So we come up with a solution to the pine marten, and you just basically wrap the tree in a material. We have it all up on our website that people can see. You wrap the tree in a material, pine marten. So we have a test site on the same site. We tested it last year. So that they moved out of that box and moved into the other box up on top of the hill. We had the material wrapped on the tree, and we had a video on the outside of camera that I can manipulate and move. And you could see every evening the pine marten sitting at the bottom of the tree, frustrated. He couldn't get up. He was trying to climb the tree and he was falling down and he was pooing all over the place with frustration. So, like, you know, I suppose things will live in harmony if you let them. You know, so the pine marten has its place, I suppose. It's just, you have to kind of work with it. You have to love it.
John, it's clear you're doing a massive amount of work and you're hugely passionate about what you're doing. So the very best luck with it. And just to let people know, you've covered a lot of information today, and it was really interesting. You have a huge amount of information on www.thebarnowlproject.ie, because I had a good gander through that website, and there's loads of information in relation to what you just talked about, the pine marten. If someone's setting up a nest box, how you can do it, where to put it. And also you can contact yourselves if someone has a question, I presume.
Yeah, 100%. Like, our volunteers are available, like, as I said, 24 hours a day. Like, you know, you just pick up the phone and give us a shout. If you're not getting us on email, because sometimes that you wouldn't believe the amount of emails you get, but just pick up the phone and ring us, especially if it's an emergency, if something is found on the ground. And if it's something we can't deal with, we'll direct you in the right to the right source, and you won't be left hanging with it. The same as if you need information or you're worried about the right location for boxes, stuff, all that information. If you don't want to go on the website, you want to call us, there's no problem, you know. And if we can get someone out to give you advice, to come out and look at your farm to help you out, we'll do that.
John, great to chat today in the programme, and thanks a million for looking after all the farmers around the countryside, because I'm sure they do appreciate the help, and very best luck in the future.
They're looking after me, I think.
Yeah.
No, it's brilliant, guys. Brilliant talking to you.
Thanks
John. A million, John.
That's it for this episode of the Teagasc Environment Edge podcast. Thanks to John Carrig, founder of the Barn Owl Project, for joining us on the show.
Don't forget to rate, review and subscribe to the podcast. You can listen on Apple and Google Podcasts as well as Spotify. And for more information, go to the Teagasc website at teagasc.ie. I'm Cathal Summers.
And I'm Deirdre Glenn.
Join us next time for the Teagasc Environment Edge podcast, signpost to farm sustainability.